Our microphone is out of batteries, so we're going to just project, like those of you who've been good teachers know how to do in a classroom. We're going to talk nice and loud. So we're going to start with Julie Baker with the ISDs, and I'm going to ask Julie to come up, and I know she had Amanda White, Anna Shaw, and you all present. We're going to talk about preliminary, but we're going to talk about short-term and long-term. So
First of all, thank you, Catherine. I want to say what a great group we had. I really appreciate the thought leadership in the room and the focus on what we could do in the short term to reach our goal. We have, as you know, in your organizational chart, we have all of the strategies outlined. So the group felt that those were the right strategies for the ISDs. But we came up with 4 clear action items that we are going to commit to doing together. One was to follow up to track those students who just finished and graduated from our early colleges to make sure that they're on pace to earn a 4-year degree within the next 2 years. The second strategy, the second action was to increase the rate of the current students who are enrolled in our early colleges to earn that 2-year degree by 2012 and 2013. We also, one of the strategies was really providing peer tutors and counseling to students, but we also had conversations around outreach to parents. So one of the things that we talked about was really strengthening our partnerships with community colleges and our universities to make sure that they are more visible on our campuses, and that we commit to making sure that our students are more visible on their campuses to give them that opportunity to make that decision about whether college is right for them. We also talked about making sure that we co-develop common communications and marketing to help parents and students understand things like what it means to earn dual credit, what it means to take and pass with a qualifying score, AP and IB exams, what it means if you're in a career tech program to really get that articulation and earning of that college credit, and what that means also from the financial benefits, so that they're on pace to make sure that they're committed and can afford to go to college beyond K-12. So those are the 4 action items that our astounding group came up with in this short time frame. Thank you.
John?
Yes.
Sousa from El Paso is going to report out on the business group, and do you have, you've got your own little...
It's all here.
It's all right up there.
Thank you, Catherine. We had a great group as well. Lee said he had a little bit of a sleep dividend. We had a little bit of a knowledge dividend. We were filling in for Sue Ortonstone today, and it took about 10 seconds for us to understand what we're trying to accomplish here, how the business corporate environment can play an incredible role in the talent dividend. So just a brief second or two on the process. We walked into the room with 4 potential strategic priorities identified for the business area that were pulled together by the advisory committee. So we spent a good amount of our time going through each of those 4 and talking about them. Were they the right ones? Were they the right order? Were some things missing? Do we need to add some more things to it? So we had a really, really robust conversation about those 4. And where we sort of ended up in terms of our priorities, our next steps, are 4 areas in particular: awareness, infrastructure, outreach, measurement / governance. And what we talked about in terms of those areas, awareness not only being an understanding within our own companies and our own organizations who are potential near completers that we can target, but also doing a little bit of a better job creating awareness within our organizations and beyond for the sort of things that Lee shared with us in terms of that income disparity between non-college graduates and college graduates, also what the earning potential will be. So we talked about creating more awareness within our own organizations, but then using and leveraging what we do as businesses every day to create even greater awareness. From an infrastructure perspective, we talked about the need to make sure that we know and understand our tuition reimbursement programs as companies, but then also sort of be advocates for companies that may not have it, to be out there raising awareness of the importance of them and how they work, and doing a better job internally there as well. Also making sure infrastructure includes partnerships with nonprofit organizations to address some of those financial hurdles that students encounter in terms of being able to move on to the 2-year or 4-year university or college. In terms of the outreach, spent a lot of time on that. Things like mentorships, getting more of us as professionals in the classrooms, having more conversation with peers and colleagues who may be near completers to help them understand what's involved with getting the rest of your degree. So the outreach really taking the form of leveraging what we do as professionals every day and creating relationships within our own organizations, but then going out in terms of mentorships involved in the classroom. And then finally, on measurement and governance, really just to make sure all that we're doing is moving the needle in the right direction. And if it's not, what are we going to do about it? So that was a really important point that we talked about. So those are the four priority areas that we talked about, each of them with corresponding action items that I think we as a group felt pretty comfortable we could go out there and start doing right away with our businesses and organizations. The last point I'll just make is we're going to be sharing our information digitally. We're going to be doing that through LinkedIn as a team, so we'll get the wheels turning early in terms of sharing the information from the digital communications perspective, and we'll meet no later than November, I believe, is what we've talked about. But we really took a look at what we had, kind of blew it up, rebuilt it, awareness, infrastructure, outreach, measurement, governance. Thanks.
John from El Paso, Bob Wimpelberg from the University of Houston will talk about universities.
We started with four ideas from the advisory group to identify stop-outs and get them completed. That is to say, those who are close to completion but have left our universities before the degree completion, providing peer and professor-supported tutoring, using online instruction to cap off degree programs, and the reverse transfer policy. We identified probably 8 additional items, many of which actually clustered under the one that we think is high priority for us. And that is to get the near completer, either a current student in the university or someone who is, and we said probably within 2 semesters of completion, but has stopped out, the new phrase, stopped out of the university, to get them to completion. And we clustered around the techniques for doing that, focusing scholarship support on those students, first of all, identifying them. And that's our first action item. I'll jump there. We said between now and our next meeting, October 14th, can we identify who those students are? So we need to find out at the institutional research level, do we know who those folks are? And then can we focus scholarship support on getting their degree completion? What about designing project-based learning, if it meets with faculty approval, that could allow for some capstone course credit experience. Instituting online learning to complete degrees, and taking advantage where we can of the life experience work. Now that probably won't come into play in the 4-year degree completion, but in the longer term. Let me pause and say we started by affirming the notion that this is ongoing work. That Talent Dividend simply gives us a jump start on work we need to be doing for the long term. So that the Center for Houston's Future is committed to this long term, really excited folks. We also said that the things we invent in the near term, if they're working, they're going to have long-term best practice implications for us. So it's not likely that they will be, in a sense, projects. They will become sustainable and hopefully scalable strategies. We are committed then to do the background work first. Can we identify who these stop-outs and near completers are? Number 2, can we identify how fungible, how flexible our scholarship support is, such that we might at our institutions be able to, or know if we can move it to put it behind the students who are close to completing, perhaps reallocate some of it, and that will get us started. Our second priority, which we think is almost is the lowest hanging fruit, is the reverse transfer. The notion that if you move from a community college with at least 30 credits and then continue your work in the university, accumulate in the university the equivalent of that second year of community college work, you're granted the Associate of Arts degree retroactively. Number 1, it improves the completion rate for community colleges who are actually penalized when their students transfer. Second, it gives that student, should they have to stop or drop out, it gives them a degree of record. for their use. And third, the observation is that Texas legislature passed a mandatory requirement of all public institutions that they do this. So we're going to pursue this by looking at the templates that we have, particularly here at the University of Houston, to see if we can universalize this practice across all institutions, including our private institutions.
Collier is with San Jacinto College. We talk about the community colleges.
We actually had great representation from our community colleges. We have 9 community colleges in the Gulf Coast area. We had 7 of them with us today, and I want to recognize them. Alvin, Brazosport College of the Mainland, Houston Community College, Lone Star, Lee, and San Jacinto College. Wharton and Galveston have shown interest. They're going to be with us at our October 24th meeting moving forward. And I think that's substantial because about 80% of the freshmen in this region start out in community colleges. And so we're here to make an impact. One of the things that you see with our community colleges is we have all been part of the Achieving the Dream, which is a national initiative. And so we've been working on student success agendas, but now we're how do we accelerate all those pieces. We agreed that our #1 strategy needed to be identification and assistance for near completers. And we really talked about what some of those best practices are that each one of us are doing, and there's a lot of them. But what we're looking at is how do we really start scaling and building those structures for all the community colleges so that we get more impact sooner. And so we talked about what we're doing. We're going to bring those best practices back together. A lot of what we talked about was similar to Bob. Once we really start marketing and pushing that value of that associate degree, which we saw as our first action step, showing that we have those structures in place. What are the other support areas, though, that our students need? Those emergency funds, those scholarship funds to get them completed. And we all agreed that we were going to take another look at our prior learning assessment techniques. We're doing that largely with veterans right now. We're doing it in other areas, but how do we expand that for the completion also? And we looked at how do we bring technology into this to really market that value of that degree to all the variety of students that we have. We serve 18 to 60-year-olds. There's difference in how we really market and push that. But I was just impressed with the broad range of representation we had and how we can really make an impact for the entire region.